On a bright morning, Spanish police received an urgent call from a quiet neighborhood in Malaga. At the scene, they discovered a woman lying motionless, her body covered with multiple stab wounds, blood soaking the floor. The perpetrator had fled, but just hours later, he was arrested, calmly sitting in a nearby cafe. This case seemed straightforward, but it was only the beginning of a shocking chain of events spanning nearly a decade. The investigation into the suspect's identity led police back to an old, forgotten case, the disappearance of a young woman in 2014. What was found behind the walls of an old apartment would shake even the most experienced forensic experts. Sibora Gagani was a lively, cheerful girl full of dreams. After her parents divorced, her mother moved the children to Rome to start a new life. Sybora quickly adapted, earning the affection of her friends who lovingly called her Sibi. Her family struggled financially, so she started working as a waitress at a cafe during her teenage years to help her mother. Despite her busy life, she never gave up on her dream of becoming a teacher. She loved children, was passionate about teaching, and believed that one day she would stand in front of a classroom. With her natural beauty and slender figure, she even won a local beauty contest. But she was never swayed. Her dream was not the spotlight, but the blackboard and chalk. At 18, fate introduced her to Marco in a cafe. He was 13 years older, confident, and charming. At the time, Sybora knew little about him other than he was divorced and trying to rebuild his life. Despite a nagging feeling that something wasn't right, she was drawn in. After a year of dating, Marco suggested they move to Spain for a fresh start where there were more opportunities. Despite her mother's objections, she followed him, believing love would lead her to a better life. At first, everything seemed fine. She worked as a waitress, Marco as a chef. They rented a small apartment near the beach, and Sybora would call her mother, sharing optimistic stories about their new life. But peace didn't last. Marco became unemployed, irritable, jealous without reason, blaming everyone but himself. Slowly, the suffocating atmosphere consumed the life Sybora thought was a new chapter. When Elisabetta, Sybora's mother, visited her in Spain, she was shocked. Her once vibrant daughter had become withdrawn and sad. Marco didn't even hide his hostility toward her presence. Life in Spain became a dead end for Sybora. Her youthful dreams faded into distant memories. Then, in July 2014, she suddenly disappeared. The last message she sent was to Marco. After that, her phone was turned off and her social media went silent, completely out of character for someone who always stayed in touch. Her mother grew anxious because, just shortly before, Sybora had tearfully said she had finally escaped her suffocating relationship with Marco. She had moved out, starting a new, lighter life. But Marco appeared at Elisabetta's home in Italy, claiming Sybora had left after an argument, leaving behind all her belongings. Later, he changed his story, saying a security guard saw her leave with 2 suitcases. His conflicting accounts only deepened the family's suspicions. Elisabetta knew her daughter would never vanish without telling her or her siblings. Yet, she clung to the hope that Sybora was hiding to escape Marco. By 2015, the investigation into her disappearance had stalled. Despite Elisabetta's relentless pleas, all leads ended in dead ends. Marco, the last person to see her, remained the prime suspect, but there was no evidence to charge him. Throughout, Marco insisted Sybora had left after an argument, taking a few things with her. Her clothes, documents, and personal items were still in the apartment. He never called the police, only claimed to have distributed flyers around the neighborhood, weaving baseless theories about her fleeing to Argentina or running off with a stranger. The family never stopped searching, but no clues emerged. Meanwhile, Marco lived as if nothing had happened, going to the gym, chatting with neighbors, portraying himself as an ordinary man. But his new girlfriend started revealing a darker side, controlling, jealous, violent, a repeating pattern. By 2023, Marco was living with his new girlfriend Paula, and they had a child. Yet life was far from happy. Paula was living the same nightmare Sybora endured. On May 16, 2023, Paula enjoyed a rare day off, cheerfully telling her co-workers about a relaxing evening ahead. But the next day, around 11:30 a.m., screams erupted from their apartment. Neighbors used to their arguments were alarmed by the intensity. They knocked on the door, hearing only sobs before silence. Marco calmly opened the door, claiming Paula was sleeping. One neighbor immediately called the police. Marco, realizing the situation was escalating, abruptly left the apartment. When the landlord arrived with a spare key, they discovered Paula's lifeless body on the floor, covered in deep stab wounds. Her clothes were soaked in blood. She had died hours earlier. Police sealed off the scene, summoned forensic teams, and launched a manhunt for Marco. Paula's body was sent for autopsy. Within hours, Marco was arrested at a nearby cafe, unusually calm, offering no resistance. Just 3 days later, he was in court, remaining mostly silent during the hearing. The court denied him bail. Then, the name Sybora resurfaced. During interrogation, Marco finally confessed. During an argument in 2014, he killed Sybora and hid her body inside their apartment. He even offered to guide police to the exact location, describing in detail how he concealed her. In early June 2023, Spanish police reopened the case. Searching the old apartment, they noticed the building's layout didn't match the blueprints. A large section of the bedroom had vanished, sealed by a concrete wall. Behind it, they found a large wooden box filled with lime. Inside were shocking discoveries: a plastic bag containing a blood-stained knife and personal items belonging to Sybora. Most horrifyingly, there were human remains. The remains were sent for forensic analysis. Tattoos on the body matched descriptions in the missing person report. DNA samples from Sybora's family confirmed the remains were hers. A week later, more gruesome details surfaced. Marco admitted he had tried to use acid to destroy her body, though this claim remains unverified. Investigators noted his statements were inconsistent, confessing one moment, denying the next. Finally, in 2023, Sybora was returned to her family for burial. Legal proceedings against Marco continued. At a court hearing on January 30th, 2024, he submitted a 17-page handwritten letter admitting to Paula's murder, but filled with excuses. His ever-changing testimony forced investigators to take more time before final sentencing. Marco now faces trials for 2 murders, 2 women who loved him, hoped he would change, and ultimately paid with their lives.